welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about Metalocalypse. You may have heard of them recently since they just announced a bunch of tour dates and a new movie set to come out in 2023. So let's just jump right into it. With new shows like Smiling Friends and Family Guy becoming staples in Gen Z culture, I'd like to dial it back to the year 2006 to visit a show called Metalocalypse. Metalocalypse is an interconnected story that can also be enjoyed in one-off episodes. Each episode has a song that ties into an album at the end of the season called a death album. Posing as something similar to Gorillaz, a group of fictional characters making up a real-life band. The world's solution to overproduced MTV-style music of the late 90s and early 2000s. The plot, however, is a lot more complex than a real fake metal band, if that's somehow possible. A metal band called Deathclock, so powerful that it controls most of the world's order, starting riots with upcoming album releases. Having control over the world's economy and single-handedly becoming the 12th largest economy in the world. But the catch is, the band members, Nathan Explosion, Squizgar, Squizgelf, Pickles, William Murderface, and Toki Wartooth have a looming curse over them. Each episode ending in a full-on recipe for carnage. Whether that be their high-tech stage malfunctioning and blowing a crowd of upwards to 40,000 people to shreds, or accidentally endorsing the murder of Florida's governor. It's even mentioned that their fans signed pain waivers to legally void them of all responsibility for the thousands of deaths on the band's record. Nathan Explosion, the frontman. The lead singer has a brute look to him, but he struggles constantly with his body image, like we all do. Being the leader of Deathclock gives him a control over the other guys, whenever they're out of control, which is pretty often. Coming from Florida and even governing his home state for a short period of time, he has an incredibly loving family. Being the only member with a good relationship with his father.
Alright, I get it, fine. You're all without fathers, alright?
I'm not. I love my dad.
Their love sometimes became overbearing to Nathan and annoying. But this does explain why he's a lot less unhinged than most of the group and has a pretty level head about most things, but still kind of follows in others' footsteps. Toki Wartooth, not a bumblebee. Rhythm guitar. Being the group's punching bag most of the time, with parents who do not speak or show emotion due to religious restrictions, Toki is somehow the most empathetic. While most of the band tosses him aside, Toki has a soft spot for animals, kids, and space. Squizgar, Squizgelf, taller than a tree. The god of electric guitar, his fingers fast as lightning, and the charisma to get him as many women as he possibly wants. The Swedish lead guitar struggles with his lack of father figure and a very promiscuous mother who allegedly had sex with like over 1,000 men in 1 month, which is absolutely insane to me. His trauma, even though it is hard, has created the legend that we know today. Pickles, the drummer. Doodly doo-doo. Pickles, the drunken party animal, is never quite sober, being the life of the party in most situations. Originating from an obnoxious family in Tomahawk, Wisconsin, he brings rationality to the group, which is seriously lacking in most cases. But regardless of his acknowledgement for absurd situations, he definitely does exactly what everyone else is doing. The members most of the time follow each other like lost ducklings. And finally, Murderface. Murderface, Murderface, Murderface. Raised by his grandparents, this grotesque bassist's parents died in a murder-suicide when he was just a child. Murderface is definitely taking the cake when it comes to absolute insanity. While these characters are very well acted and written, there seems to be little character development outside of a very few key episodes. Even when the characters have full self-exploration in one episode, they go back to the exact same habits in the next. Pickles going to rehab just to pick up the drink the next episode, or Squizgar finding contentment in domesticity and his new stepfather. The next episode, right back to being reckless with his sexual prowess. But for some reason, Toki seems to have the most consistent story development. Running back to Roxo, the rock and roll clown, many times, like he's with a toxic lover.
His name is Dr. Roxo. He's the rock and roll clown. He does cocaine.
Eventually, throughout each season, he becomes less tolerant and doesn't forgive as easily. His patience dwindles, and his personality goes from quite mellow and soft sometimes to more insane than his fellow bandmates. In the episodes leading up to Deathfire Upon Us, Toki lost his father. He lost his best friend, which was a cat, and he watched his biggest fan, a little girl, pass away in front of him. All of these things making him slowly deteriorate into this reckless menace, even randomly harming his bandmates just for attention. The characters' voices tend to be very hard to palate and may even drive away some newcomers to the show. Toki and Murderface specifically just pick something in me, like nails on a chalkboard.
You guys wants the hot toe?
Even though Toki is one of my favorite characters, the voice acting is borderline unenjoyable at points. Sometimes the dialogue between Toki and Squizgar is incomprehensible without headphones because of their hyped up European accents. Most of the time when I'm watching the show, I have to have subtitles turned on just for those two characters.
That's way more gooders than you.
That's why I needs me a piano teacher.
I mean, guitar teacher. Look.
There are some times where the over-the-top voice acting does get toned down, and I think that's where this show truly shines. Still cartoonish, but somehow grounded with a natural feel. Each of the band members are very narcissistic. Selfish, non-empathetic, and just brute. Even with all the greed and aggression, these guys seem to work well together. They just need someone leading the troops that works well with them, such as their manager Charles, who for some reason is an immortal being that was resurrected by a cult and has some John Wick fighting skills without any explanation as to why or how. But slowly throughout each season, the show becomes less episodic and more serialized. The actual plot of the show lives in the shadow of most of the comedic bits, and it strikes me as something that should have stayed episodic, quite like Rick and Morty. Small adventures that you can enjoy casually each week. The best examples for these types of episodes are Deathwater, Blackfire Upon Us, and Tribute Talk. The show has such a wild universe that the plot is sometimes too absurd to rationalize. The deep plot starts when you're introduced to the Tribunal, a secret Illuminati of sorts that is there to monitor Deathclock's weird antics. The Tribunal is led by Mr. Salacia, who vows to protect Deathclock until they can fulfill the prophecy in which they rise to the status of metal gods. The show is extremely entertaining, even when it makes no sense. Trying to write this script actually proved very hard for this specific reason. Actually, the biggest critique I have with the show is something that I face with most shows made during this era, and that's its timing. The timing of these jokes are actually pretty solid, but whenever you drag it on for 1 to 3 minutes in an 11-minute show, I feel like there's more valuable uses of the time. For example, Gen Z has perfected the art of comedic timing. Have you ever laughed at like a perfectly cut off scream?
Excuse me, heavens. Will women be attracted to you? Let's start by getting some sunlight in here. Okay, whoa, sorry. Okay, we'll start.
In Metalocalypse, though, I feel like the jokes are only funny for so long. In the episode Blackfire Upon Us, we get some amazing subtle bits, such as Murderface being completely involved with fire safety, and a more ongoing joke is Toki's drinking problem.
Don't know, I mean, there's... Are you drinking straight vodkas right now?
Don't worry about it.
Toki, it's like noons.
Oh, thanks, Big Spence. Now I knows what times it is. I knows what I'm doing.
Toki, drinking ain't a contest, you know that.
Get off my back!
But all of this humor, and even the main plot, is overshadowed by the fact that these guys want to suck their own dicks. Yeah, you heard me right.
You guys watch that video, that guy suck his own you-know-what? Yeah! I thought that was CGI or something. It's real, guys. That shit fucking real.
If Icecoods does that...
Right, I mean, why would you...
I be in
a
band?
Good point, I mean, that's the whole point of all this, right?
Why is even...
Which is funny for the first scene that it's in, but whenever it takes over that whole 11-minute runtime and mentioned in every single scene, it gets extremely overexhausted by the end, and even annoying. The main plot of this episode is about the group getting prepared for the biggest gig of their lives, even having to work as hard as to prevent a terrorist attack from happening at the show by a group who hate Deathclock called the Revengeancers. I will praise the show about a lot of things throughout this runtime, but by far the best part of the show is the music. As a metal fan, it is so refreshing. The songs were a highlight of the show. Awaken and Fan Song give me a reason to headbang in the car every morning.
Have fun, kids! I'll just be here listening to my tunes. Have fun, kids! I'll just be here listening to my tunes.
All written by Brandon Small, who voices Nathan, Squizgar, and Pickles, formed on stage with what I assume is a group of touring members. I'm a huge metal fan, so the show is obviously made for people like me, yet I never really felt as if it relied on the metal references or ideas, sometimes even directly opposing them. In episodes like Religion Talk, even saying that Satanism isn't brutal enough or metal enough. Even when historically metal and Satanism go hand in hand, like bread and butter. The cast of prominent metal icons in the show is astounding. I'll just read some off for you. Bran Daler from Mastodon being in the show as a lead singer and rapper of a new metal band. Slash from Guns N' Roses and a tribute band to Deathclock. Scott Ian from Anthrax, Dave Grohl from Nirvana or the Foo Fighters, Angela Gasso from Arch Enemy, Ace Frehley from Kiss, Kirk Hammett from Metallica and Exodus, Corpse Grinder from Cannibal Corpse, and my absolute favorite, King Diamond.
Sir? Sorry, hey, we wish to bargain our souls, for whatever.
Very well. You understand then that you will have to sign a binding contract.
Is your property? See, our lawyer is not here.
Well, it's not like we haven't negotiated a contract before.
Hold on, page 4. The language is kind of murky.
Playing none other than the man himself, the devil. Another prominent name in the show is Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill is in every episode, playing Senator Stampingston? Senator Stampingston. Try saying that 100 times fast. Overall, this show stands very well with time. Almost 17 years and it doesn't lose much value. Recently, there's been news of a Metalocalypse movie in development, originally announcing it at Adult Swim's 2022 festival. Along with this announcement came the announcement of Aqua Team Hunger Force, which has already been released, and Venture Bros, which has recently leaked some of their teaser images. Well, Metalocalypse announced their movie in a much brutal fashion, with minimalism. I hope this isn't the last we see of Metalocalypse. I found myself growing incredibly close with the show, and quickly it became one of my favorite comfort shows, and I'm excited to see what they do with this upcoming film. Then the show didn't really feel right for me. Such high stakes taken completely seriously, and a full-on 1-hour rock opera to wrap the series off, it didn't feel natural for the show's momentum it had been building up for so long. I hope this film can give us a satisfying conclusion that we all deserve. Even with the success of these new Golden Age Adult Swim shows being continued or finished, we will start to see our favorite shows be treated with the respect we deserve.